welcome to another episode of the Monday Morning Learning Podcast. This is Ravi Jagarlapudi. Very happy to have Velan from Singapore, founder of EverComm, on my show. Warm welcome, Velan. Any welcoming comments before we start off with your introduction?
Just to give a quick background about myself, as you know, I'm brought up in India, and I did my engineering in Annamalai University, mostly on electronics and instrumentation.
Right.
Then I started my career with the Dunlop Tires in Chennai.
Hmm.
Okay. So I was an instrumentation engineer in Dunlop Tires for 3 years.
Right.
Then I decided to do my MBA, and I went to Philippines to do my MBA, at Asian Institute of Management.
All right.
Okay. So it was in 95, 97. I went to Philippines, and that connection with the Philippines still stays with me now. So
Excellent.
I kind of close to Philippines, and Philippines has given me an opening in my life, I would say.
Right.
The education has shaped me as a different person
Mhm.
than I was. Okay.
Excellent.
So it was 1997. After I did my MBA, I want to get into consulting, and I returned back to India, and it was a financial crisis here, that specific year. So finally, I ended up in fintech. So I started my career with the Citadel Information Technology Industries those times, and later it got changed to iFlex, and now it's called Oracle Financial Services.
Right.
Okay. So I started as a product manager for a fund management front-end product. Right? And it was an interesting start for me because you started building a front-end internet banking product where you don't even have an internet connection.
Right.
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 It was a very interesting journey. And from there, I moved to Citibank in Chennai, and I managed the regional corporate internet banking applications for the Asia Pacific from Chennai. And from Chennai, I moved to Bangalore to Infosys. I worked as an account manager for Finacle e-channels, which is also an internet banking for all of APAC and Middle East and Africa. Right.
Great.
From Infosys, I came to Singapore in 2004, which is now about 20 years in Singapore now.
Right.
So I joined Citibank in Singapore.
Okay.
And spent around 4 years there, again in regional e-biz. Okay. Did a lot of other projects, did a lot of innovations, and that kind of shaped my career in technology.
Excellent.
Right? And then I went to IBM in 2008. Yeah. And I started my career as a consultant there. So I was consulting for 5 years in IBM. And later I decided to quit my corporate life in 2013. That's where I joined a couple of NTU students here.
Right.
And we formed a company mostly on energy efficiency improvement solutions way back in 2014.
Right. Okay.
Right. And now it's 10 years now. Building a company is an experience. Okay. It's a life experience. Okay. I learned a lot on the way. Right. And it shaped me as a new person. Right. So, and a lot of new characters, and a lot of new things I learned. And that's where I am now. You can say me, I'm now ready for my next version, which is retirement.
It's Velan 3.0, I guess.
Yes, Velan 3.0, you're right. I'm getting prepared for my 3.0.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much, Velan. I just also wanted to share with my audience that you actually helped in building up EverComm from a 2 people incorporation to a 20 plus people with 16 million Singapore dollar valuation in 3 years' time. That's a great thing. And I think talking of your journey, I mean, 2013, 14 onwards, you've been on your own. I mean, you actually came out of the corporate and been on your own. So it takes me nicely to the themes. So for the audience, there are 5 themes today. We're going to talk about first-time entrepreneurs and how Velan actually helps through Collab Solve Asia. First-time entrepreneurs will come to the first question there. We look at his journey from corporate fintech to cleantech. That's theme number 2. Theme number 3, we'll look at sustainability and optimization. Theme number 4, as always, we look at layoffs, and we look at Velan's thoughts in terms of how to prepare for layoffs. Theme 5 will be on influencers, and we will touch on the International Women's Day, which just fell on yesterday. So these are the 5 themes for this particular podcast. And Velan, the first question to you from me is through Collab Solve Asia. Now, how do you actually help first-time entrepreneurs in venture design, planning, and training services?
Oh, that was a very interesting journey. It's immediately after I left my career, corporate career, what I need to do was my next question.
Right.
Okay. And that's where Collapse Solve Asia was born in a way. Right. So what I used to do is I used to hang around in the Starbucks and near the startup spaces.
Right.
And that's where this whole company got created. Right.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting experience to meet new people with new background. Right. So I just every day get up in the morning and go to the Starbucks, like going to the office and come back in the evening. So in the process, I met a lot of startup young entrepreneurs, right? Staying and we just get mutually introduced. And I was giving my background. You like it or not, I didn't know that I became a startup consultant. Only after later when they told me you are a startup consultant. Right? Because many people come to me and say, what is a business plan? Can you share your experience? They share their ideas and I give my inputs. So in the whole process of discussion, suddenly one guy asked me, are you a startup consultant? Oh, yes, I'm a startup consultant. Right? And that's where I actually formalized that into a company. Right. So, and in the process, what I did was I was teaching technopreneurship in a local institute here.
Yes.
And that teaching technopreneurship was really a breakthrough experience for me to enter into entrepreneurship.
Right.
Because when you start teaching, I did a lot of research in understanding how to do a venture building. Right? There are different aspects to venture building. One is the stage one is basically MVP, we call standardly, which is called a minimum viable product. That is the first stage where you convert an idea into a product.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's a kind of a scratch product. And the second stage is how you take this product into a market and what is the market fit here.
Yeah.
Right. So initially you have an hypothesis on a problem statement, right? Based on this hypothesis, you have a problem statement defined on which you will build a minimum viable product. But when you do the second stage of market fit, and that's where you correct your hypothesis.
Yeah.
Right. And you correct your problem statement.
Right.
And tune that in such a way that the product is ready for market.
Absolutely.
Right. And that stage is the second stage. So once your product is ready for market, then you started selling the product. The third stage is all about scaling. And after scaling, the company moves into a growth stage.
Excellent.
Right. Yeah. So this whole process, I was teaching students, right? How to do, I read materials, I was explaining them, I helped them to write a business plan, etc.
Right.
And this is where the whole process of consulting came in. And it so happened, my current co-founder was a customer to me.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So that was an interesting thing. So he came to me and said he was looking for someone who can help him to write a business plan.
Okay.
Right. And it so happened a common friend introduced him to him. Then I had a coffee chat and said, okay, what do you want? So basically, he wanted me to raise a business plan to raise around $500,000 Sing dollar government grant.
Okay.
Right. I said, okay, can you do it? I said, okay, I'll do it. So it was an interesting experience for me during collapse all the time, where I read something and I start using it by writing it.
Right.
And it was a pretty interesting thing. So I wrote a business plan and it's not for free. I just a percentage of the overall fund I raise is what my revenue stream.
Right.
And eventually, slowly, small by small, new assignments started coming in. One of my friend in India has built up a product. He wants to enter that product into Singapore market, specifically in oil and gas. So I helped him to do a product entry strategy, not a product entry strategy, as a product entry itself I gave him. I identify a customer here, and then I introduce him to the customer. Then we did his first sales for him.
Excellent.
Right? So it's kind of consulting, which kind of helping, and it's always a results-driven revenue.
Absolutely.
Right? Because startups cannot afford to pay you. Right?
Absolutely.
And it's a result-driven. And in the process of helping different type of startup entrepreneurs, it's kind of a mutual learning, and it actually enhanced me or motivated me to get into full-time entrepreneurship. So that's the whole story all about.
Lovely journey, Velan. The theme two, we talk about your transition from corporate fintech to cleantech, and From the point of view of someone who might be intending to take this transition, how easy and or tough was the transition from corporate fintech environment to the clean tech startup ecosystem in Singapore, Velan?
Yeah, that was a really an interesting journey. So to share my experience after I left my corporate life, I said to myself, I'm not going to do what I did, but I don't know what I want to do.
Right.
Right. It's a kind of an unknown scenario I put in. I would say all these things happened after I climbed Mount Kailash. Okay. So I went to Mount Kailash after my corporate life. Right. It was a 15 days strenuous journey up in the Himalayas for 8,000 meters high, no oxygen, and you're all alone.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the mountain taught me 3 key traits that every human need to have. Trait number 1 is basically belief.
Yeah.
You need to believe on something without any logic. Right? Usually coming from a business background, in a business educated background, you're very analytical.
Yeah.
Right? But business doesn't hold analytical belief. Belief comes without analytical. You just believe without any reason. That's the first point.
Yeah.
The second point is patience. Right? You need tremendous patience in life. And actually speaking, mountain taught me patience. Right? And after I come down, my anger level has gone down. And the acceptance level has increased. Right? And the third thing is basically perseverance.
Right.
You keep trying. Okay.
Yeah.
So all these 3 traits got inbuilt in me. Okay. And with that, I said, yes, this is clean tech. I don't know head or tail of clean tech, believe me. Right? I don't even know what is a chiller at that time. So people took me to a building and they showed me into the chiller plant room. It was a very big machine, which is like 10 feet height. And what this is doing, I have no idea.
Great.
Right? And I don't know where to start. Right? So I followed these 3 principles, which traits which I learned. First thing is believe that I can learn.
Yeah.
Right? So I have no idea. I always go empty and blank-minded. I always meet people who are experts who worked in that field for 20 years. I still remember a consultant who met me. When I met him, he knows my background.
Right.
He said, I charge $250 per hour.
Wow.
What it means is don't waste my time. Right? And the same consultant, if I meet today, he speak with me for 4 hours nonstop.
Wow.
So I asked him, you said that with me 8 years back, and now you sit with me and talk for 4 hours. And why you say that? And he said, I learn new things from you.
Okay. Excellent.
Right? So the advantage of being non-biased and curiosity to learn new things and having a structured common sense is good enough to pick up any new field.
Excellent.
Right? You can learn anything. Today, I can sit and talk with an energy consultant back and forth. Right? And suddenly industry call me as a BMS expert. Right? I look back and see, oh, am I a BMS expert today? No, I used to work in banking. Right? So in a way, if you look at, so I translated a lot of knowledge from banking to the clean tech.
Right.
Right? So the digital systems works the same way. Whether it is a bank or whether it is a building or it's a factory, it's almost the same.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So what are the commonalities between industries and what is that specific to industries? You need to understand, pick it up. So now, if you ask me what you can do, well, I can even run a spaceship. Right?
Yeah.
So that kind of confidence you get in, right? And that's where it is. So this is the first part of it in learning things. The second part of is working with people.
Yes.
Right? So when you work with startups specifically, my co-founder is 20 years younger to me.
Yes.
Right? So I picked up to work with people who are much younger to me. And that made my brain very agile today. You know what I mean? So you've got to be ready to compete with this kind of people. When you want to compete with this kind of people, You got to unlearn and relearn.
Absolutely.
And unlearn is very difficult.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And you need to unlearn everything and relearn everything. Right? So I went through the process, which is a very important, right? So unlearn and relearn. So when I start relearning things, now I'm very comfortable. Even a 20-year young, smart guy come and talk to me, I can challenge him.
Excellent.
Right? In any field you can go in. So you build that competence of handling and working with young people. Right?
Absolutely.
So that's why I suggest when people are in the mid-40s, choose to work with very young people.
Yes. Yes.
And it's really, really challenging. Right? So this is the second part majorly I learned. And the third part was I never used to do business development before.
Right.
Right? I used to be in project management and consulting. And here I took business development as a challenge. So if you were to look at, it's not only the field that is new, even the function I took was new.
Absolutely.
I was never a salesman.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
And I say, even if you ask me, are you a salesman? No, I'm not a salesman. I'm basically a consultative sales guy. You know, I'm a problem solver. I look at it as a problem solver. I'm not a target-driven salesman. You give a target, actually, that's not my point. I look at a value prop to my client. What is my pain point for my customer? Right? So my business development skills have shaped up in a very different level.
Excellent.
Right? Yes. So it's not like you go keep selling without even thinking what it is.
Yes.
So my customers stay with me on loyalty. They respect me in the industry simply because I was very empathetical in understanding their pain points.
Absolutely.
And how to address that pain points.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. And I don't consider my customer as a customer. All my customers are my partners. You know what I'm saying? So it's a kind of a partnership relationship where we build something together.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right? Absolutely. How you want to put it, you can put different words. You can say co-create, you can say collaboration, you can say many things actually, right? So we work together where my consultants bring the operational and domain expertise. We bring the technology expertise and how we can together come together and create something that is beneficial for all of us.
Absolutely. It's a win-win. Yeah.
A win-win kind of situation. And today I can call myself as a hardcore decarbonization expert. Yeah, confident to say that because I kind of get a grip of how industries work. I can work in cross industries now. You put me in a bank, I look at the things in a very different way in a bank. I'm looking at green fintech as a new emerging area, right? Where is the intersection of fintech and the green technologies.
Absolutely.
Right? Yes.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much, Velan. Interestingly, I saw in your description, I think you were actually invited to be a speaker as an SME at the CEO Roundtable organized by the United Nations Global Compact. What was the context and what was the conference about, Velan?
Okay, this is one of my interesting aspects of building a startup, right? So in Singapore, if you're building a startup, government works very closely with you as a startup, right? So as a part of that, I basically went into several startup missions into different countries, right? So I've been to Israel, I've been to India, I've been to Germany, I've been to Malaysia, I've been to Thailand, I've been to many other countries. So 6 to 7 startup nations I went to build collaborations, right? So in the process, what I did was I basically did technology collaborations between Israel and Singapore.
Right.
Okay? So Singapore Israel Innovation Authority and the Singapore EDB have come up with a funding called Singapore Israel Research and Development Foundation, R&D Foundation.
Excellent. Okay.
So where we bring two different companies, right, with two different complementary skills, and you need to build a joint technology and take it to the market.
Excellent.
Right? So when you do these kind of things, and this is where you have a complete grip of how you build a product for SMEs.
Yes.
Right? We are not looking at product for MNCs typically. We started building products that is specific for SMEs, which is usually a backbone for all the countries.
Absolutely.
SME is a backbone of all the countries. You take Singapore, almost 80% of the GDP drives on SME. right? So, and that's the kind of the background you have. I will, my number is wrong, it's not 80%, but the core employment comes from there.
Right.
So all we are trying to do here is this experience is what UN Global Impact wants to share, right?
Yeah.
With other UN organizations. So I kind of a UN DP consultant, independent consultant, where I work with governments on development initiatives specifically linked with the digital. So in a way, I assist in doing digital policy formulations, implementations, giving feedback, etc. So this usually I'd be called for different focus group, closed group meetings as an expert in the industry. And that's where we share our experience of how digital policies needs to be reformulated. What feedback we need to incorporate, what is practically possible that industry can transform, and how policies needs to be changed.
Absolutely.
Right? So this kind of feedback, we work with the different government agencies, technology agencies, business agencies, right? And we share that as a SME CEOs together and give feedback to UN. UN basically will influence the governments in different countries.
Absolutely.
Right? So that's the whole background I've been called for that roundtable where we share our experience.
Okay, thank you so much, Velan, on briefing on that. Going on, this topic is something which is common across all guests, Velan, and we're talking about layoffs. It's been happening since COVID, and across the larger companies, startups, every kind of company is actually laying off people. So what would be your advice to people who are actually working and people who are laid off, both population? How should they be prepared for a layoff? Yeah, that's the question.
So one is preparing yourself for the layoff. One is you're already laid off, you want to do what to do, right?
Yes.
So first thing I would say is don't panic. All right? For the people who got laid off, don't get panicked. All right? So looking for a next job or looking for next other thing is not something you can get it overnight.
Yes.
The way I see is looking for a job is a project by itself. You treat it as a project.
Yes.
Right? So when you treat it as a project, you cannot expect outcome to come immediately.
Right.
But you need to keep searching it consciously, non-stop, without giving up.
Yes. Yes.
Right? So you need to learn how to search. First step is that. Right?
Yes.
So once you learn how to search, then you figure out. So that's what I always say. Whenever you go for interviews, don't expect that I will get a job out of this interview. Right? Don't think that when I apply, I will get a job.
Yes.
Right? So all you need to do is when I apply, the first step you need to have as a goal is to get an interview.
Absolutely.
The goal is getting interview, not getting job.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So if you focus like that, you start tuning the way you communicate.
Yes.
Specifically how you write your CV. Right? You keep changing your CV in the objective of getting an interview, not getting a job.
True.
So that should be your first milestone.
Sure.
So you need to approach this as a step-by-step milestone.
Absolutely.
The second milestone, when you start getting interviews, then the first job is not getting a job again. It's all about how I am going to progress to the next round.
Yes. Yes.
All I'm going to say is, yes, I'm going to attend. They should call me again.
Absolutely.
Right? For whatever reason. Don't think of job at all.
Yeah.
Right? So think of getting for the second interview. And I don't believe any job will close in one interview.
Absolutely.
Right? You will at least a minimum of 2 interviews. Right? So when you start preparing for the second interview, then eventually you'll graduate and then say, in the second interview, you target for getting the job. Right? So
Absolutely.
It's always when you start hunting, how many interviews I am attending, how many second interviews or third interviews I'm getting.
Yeah.
And that should be your internal metrics to see how fast you can acquire a job.
Absolutely.
Getting a job is a journey. It's not a fly-by thing.
Yes.
right? But accidentally you get to meet someone and they need it and they get it. That is other way of doing it.
Yes.
But the process is this. This is what for the people who have been laid off.
Absolutely.
People who are about to be laid off, especially people who work in banking sector. So laid off is inbuilt for us.
Yes.
Right? You'll never know when you get fired.
Yes.
And you'll always a reorg happening every 2 years.
Absolutely.
So every 2 years when a reorg, you're there. So all I'm saying is when you join a job, prepare for an exit from day one.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So don't work in a very monotonous way. Always focus on building skills.
Yes.
Focus on building network.
Absolutely.
Right? Focus on value building in what you do.
Yes.
Right? Focus on all these things as you work. So you're already preparing yourself for your layoff.
Absolutely.
Right? Instead of standardly working on your KPI, this is my KPI, I need to hit my KPI to get my bonus. Yeah, if you do all these things in a way that you will hit that in a way.
Absolutely.
Right? So this is how I suggest for the people who are preparing for the layoff.
Sure. Great. Thank you so much, Velan. So one of the final questions is about influencers. Who has been your influencer with respect to your leadership journey, professionally and personally as well?
I would say personally, it's more of my mother.
Okay.
Right. And my mother is a very interesting personality. Right. And I learned a lot from my mother. Right. And simply because her thinking ability was very different from a normal person.
Right.
Right. So she can talk about Obama on the one angle. On the other angle, she can talk about Kanchipuram Shankaracharya. On the other angle, she will talk about Modi and his capabilities.
Wow. Okay.
Right. And straight away, she get into Kamal Haasan and Rajinikanth in Tamil movies. Right. And she can correlate things from different industries and how you need to think differently. Right. So whenever I go to India, I meet my mother, I spend a lot of time talking to her. I enjoy that intellectual vibe of my mother. Right. And there is a simple thing which she told me, which I didn't agree, and maybe I share this with you. Suddenly one day she told me you should become like a Google CEO called Sundar Pichai. Right. On our conversation, she just told me, I said, come on, man, are you a fool or what? Right? How do you think I'm 45? I can become like that. And I'm in Singapore doing a small company. And she said, you can. And I said, come on, you logically prove me how I can. You know how she proved it to me? She asked me the first question is, how far you both were born? We were both born in the same place, which is Chennai.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
And where did he did his early education? In Chennai. What water he drink? He did Chennai water drink. And what food he ate? He ate the South Indian, vegetarian, Indian food.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of synergies between you and him. Right? It's just a matter of time. Right? For some people, it will happen in 40 pump. Some people, it will happen in 60.
Yeah.
And it is what you're destined to. All you need to do is not giving up, keep trying.
Absolutely.
Right? Absolutely. And that stayed with me forever.
Excellent. Excellent.
Right? And that gives me the passion and motivation to get up every day.
Right.
Right? So it kind of, my mother lives in me always, even though she's not around. Right? And she was my kind of a very strong personal mentor.
Excellent.
Okay.
Excellent.
So professionally, I wouldn't pick up one particular person. Right. And I have a few friends who became a mentor to me.
Okay.
Right. And Suresh is one among them. Right. So and I have a few other friends too. And then it so happened, it all happened in City World. Right. And City World in Singapore, City World in India. And we don't frequently talk, but when we talk, we connect. Right.
Yes.
So, and they understand the journey which I am going through
Mm-hmm.
because they go through the journey on every day.
Absolutely.
Right? So professional mentors is not the people who will solve your problems.
Mm-hmm.
So in my opinion, professional mentors are the people who hear your problems. The biggest service in this globe is all about listening to others. You don't need to give money.
Mm-hmm.
You go and sit in an old age home
Yeah.
and just listen to the old people.
Yeah.
That is the biggest service you do.
Absolutely.
People don't have time now. Right? So
Yes.
listening to others is the greatest skill.
Sure.
And all my professional mentors listen to me and give me honest feedback.
Absolutely. Great.
Right? There is no bias in the feedback.
Yeah.
And giving a honest feedback, whether it is positive or negative, is very important.
Absolutely.
Right? I think we are very close to proceed.
Absolutely, I know. So let me quickly conclude, Velan. First of all, thanks a lot for your time. I think it's been a lovely journey. I think your advice for first-time entrepreneurs, that's how we started with the theme one, moved on to the corporate fintech world, and your transition to the clean tech world. We looked at layoffs and we looked at your mother being the greatest influencer. So I think a lot of insights in this particular podcast, and this is going to be live within a week or so, I think 8 days from now. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people will love this podcast. Velan, thanks so much for your time. And if possible, we'll actually have a version 2 of it sometime in the future for sure.
Thank you very much, Ravi. Thanks for your time. And it was an interesting experience for me in terms of doing the podcast.